I hope the coffee has been invigorating for everyone. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Dong. I'm a research fellow at the Indonesia Project in ANU. So people may have received some emails from me as well. So I want to make an announcement about reimbursement for Indonesian researchers for this workshop. So please give your boarding pass to the lady or the gentleman at the door, like at the front desk. We call it front desk. Also, if you don't have boarding pass, so for all Indonesian researchers, you're going to get some cash for transportation cost, regardless whether there's a receipt. So you can also get that at the front desk. So please ask them for money. For international travelers, you get reimbursement from us. So please contact Kate there for your reimbursement. That's the announcement about financial stuff. So we're going to continue with our call for paper session. There's one thing I want to point out, that 3 of the 4 presenters are female from the call for paper. We didn't we didn't do that on purpose. It turns out most of the best ones are from female researchers in Indonesia. So we're going to have a very interesting session. So there are 2 very different papers. One is on environment, one is on community development. So the first one is by Ibu Andewi Rokhmawati. She's a lecturer at Universitas Riau, and she is an economist. So she's going to talk about greenhouse gas emission and firms' financial performance. So please, Ibu.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. In this occasion, I would like to present my papers. How does greenhouse gas emission affect financial performance? Empirical evidence from Indonesian listed manufacturing firm in 2011. The research aim is to understand the effect of greenhouse gas emissions on financial performance of listed manufacturing companies in Indonesia. And why this research is important? Indonesia has ratified the Kyoto Protocol, so that Indonesia has a commitment to reduce its greenhouse gas emission by 26% without international support and 41% with international support by 2020. And Indonesian government has introduced Peraturan Pemerintah number 70 year 2009 that requires firms consuming more than 6,000 tons oil equivalent per year to have energy management. And then the scarcity of fossil fuels is predicted to increase the global price of oil. And the growing concern of stakeholders about the issues of climate change requires firms to consider the stakeholders' interest. The failure of a firm to meet the stakeholders' interest will make it difficult to achieve its goals. For example, it's the creditor. If a firm doesn't meet a creditor concern, creditor interest, so that the firm will face difficulties to achieve its goal, because the creditor will increase the interest, so then the cost of debt is increased as well, and this will affect the net income. The research gap of this study, the focus from the prior study focused on company strategic decision to respond to climate change in relation to firm performance. And this study will focus the effect of greenhouse gas emission on financial performance. The prior study is focused on company strategic decision because all the studies was conducted in developed country that and the regulation is already well established, and then the context itself and the several studies conducted in developed countries, and then business attention to climate change issues has been high, and regulation concerning climate change have been well established, and data dedicated for measuring greenhouse gas emission is available publicly. And this study is already conducted, I mean, in Indonesia, and the data and the study about the effect of greenhouse gas emission is still rare, and business attention to climate change issues has been low. Regulation concerning climate change have not been well established, and data for measuring greenhouse gas emission is unavailable publicly. So that my research to resolve the problem about the data of greenhouse gas emission, I conducted a survey to collect the data to measure greenhouse gas emission. And the theory used for the research for prior studies not clearly mentioned, and the existing studies, except the studies of Iwata and Okada 2011, do not necessarily capture how stakeholders respond to firm greenhouse gas emission that ultimately affect firm financial performance. And this study used instrumental stakeholder theory, and then also use competitive advantage of Porter's theory. And this study also employs 4 different measurements of firm financial performance to capture how different stakeholders respond to greenhouse gas emission. And then the methodology itself, prior study to measure greenhouse gas emission, they use CO2 equivalent intensity, that they use log tons of CO2 equivalent. This measurement has weaknesses, that is not capturing the different firm sizes. And my study use CO2 equivalent intensity with kilogram CO2 equivalent divided by net asset. And then prior study, and they also measure greenhouse gas emission with tons CO2 equivalent divided by sales. The weakness of this measurement is that not all goods are sold. And then the data used to measure CO2 equivalent intensity were secondary data, and my study use data used to measure CO2 equivalent intensity were primary data collected through a survey. And the research contribution, my research have contribution for theory. Yeah, there is still limited study examining the effect of greenhouse gas emission on firm financial performance in Indonesia, since there is no publicly available data of greenhouse gas emission released by individual firms. This study overcome this issue by conducting face-to-face survey to get the data. And then the study employed 4 different measurements of financial performance to capture the behavior of stakeholders to respond firms' performance. And then the study also examined whether the Porter theory is applicable in the context of Indonesia or not. Contribution for policymaker, this research will provide proposed policy to the government that allows firms to decrease their greenhouse gas emission without losing their competitiveness. And then contribution for practice, this research may encourage firms to calculate and report their greenhouse emissions so that the firm can use the records as a benchmark of their efficiency of energy management. The theory, I use instrumental stakeholder theory by Jones, and the theory, what is it? Sorry. The theory suggests that if companies want to become more successful in the long run, managers must pay attention to the interests of stakeholders. And also stakeholders can be defined as any group or individual who can affect or is affected by the achievement of the organization objectives. Ignoring stakeholder interests will make it difficult for a firm to achieve its goal, and then this is because the negative reaction of stakeholders to a firm's activities are likely to increase costs or vice versa. And another theory I use is Porter's theory of competitive advantage. Porter suggests that least cost strategy can be employed by firms through the implementation of eco-efficiency and environmental cost leadership. And eco-efficiency and environmental cost leadership stress operational cost savings through a more efficient use of energy and conversion to renewable energy instead of fossil fuels. The hypothesis of this research is the question first. What is the effect of greenhouse gas emission or financial performance of listed manufacturing companies in Indonesia? I propose four hypotheses. The first is the intensity of CO2 equivalent has an effect on return on equity. And then the intensity of CO2 equivalent has an effect on return on investment. The intensity of CO2 equity has an effect on return on sales, and then the intensity of CO2 equivalent has an effect on Tobin's Q. I didn't give the sign positive or negative because there can be negative or positive. If the theory said supposed to be negative, the increase greenhouse gas emission will reduce the financial performance. The theory said like that. Data and research methodology. The population of my research 131 firms of listed manufacturing firms in Indonesia, and the sample is only 102 firms, and that is depend on the availability of financial report in 2011 and the availability of survey feedbacks. And then the source of data, greenhouse gas emission is from survey, and then financial performance from financial report 2011. For the independent variables is greenhouse gas emission, and dependent variable is return on equity, return on investment, return on sales, and Tobin's Q. I also include control variables, that's firm size, financial risk or leverage, capital intensity, and a dummy variable of heavy industry. And the heavy industry here, the definition of heavy industry here is I follow the definition from Dewan Perubahan Iklim, Indonesian Dewan Perubahan Iklim. Data and research methodology. Firm performance for return on equity, and the operational definition is net income divided by book value of equity in for asset E in TS year plus book value of equity in IT minus 1 divided by 2. And then the source of data is balance sheet 2011 and income statement 2011. And then for the return on investment is the net income divided by sorry, yeah, long-term liabilities plus book value equity plus in year T, and then long-term liabilities T minus 1 plus book value equity T minus 1 divided by 2. And then return on sales, net income divided by net sale plus net sale in year T plus net sale in year T minus 1 divided by 2. And then this is the Tobin-Skew. And then carbon intensity is kilogram of CO2 equivalent in 2011 divided by net asset in 2011 plus net asset in 2010 divided by 2. From size, I use local loan net sales in average, and then from risk leverage is measured in total debt divided by total asset in average, and then capital intensity is total asset divided by net sales in leverage, in average I mean. And the analysis, I use multiple regression analysis with cross-sectional data, and then before I run the model, I test for the assumption first, that is for the normality, multicollinearity, heteroscedasticity, and linearity. This is the regression model. Financial performance equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 CO2 equivalent intensity plus beta 2 from size plus beta 3 from leverage plus beta 4 capital intensity plus beta 5 dummy of heavy industry plus error term, where beta 0 is constant variable, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, beta 4, and beta 5 is regression coefficient, E is from name, T, time T, error epsilon E, error term, and financial performance is measured in ROE, ROI, ROS, and Tobin-Skew. This is the summary of result. If we see from this one is beta. The sign is positive. It means that the increase of CO2 equivalent will increase the financial performance. And here is the significant less than 0.05. It means the effect is significant. And all of this model have significant, and the sign is positive. The discussion. Several reasons why the relationship is positive and significant. Peraturan pemerintah number 70 year 2009 appears to be ineffective in forcing firms to reduce their emissions, and many firms have ignored the regulation as something without teeth. It means that is not influential regulation that not enough to force a firm to meet to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. According to the Indonesian Directory of Energy Conversion, most participating firms in energy management are reluctant to comply because of the requirement of expensive investment. Indonesia does impose a penalty on firms who do not meet the regulation, but it is not high when compared to the benefit of non-compliance. Another reason is manufacturers use coal that cost effective for firm, but coal produces twice more greenhouse gas emissions than other types of fossil fuels. The conceptual contribution for the instrumental stakeholder theory, the positive effect of greenhouse gas emission on firm financial performance in this study implies that existing stockholders together with creditors, customers, and share market are less concerned about greenhouse gas emissions. They would like the firm to generate more profits by meeting the minimum requirements of energy management regulation. And then conceptual contribution for the least cost strategy of Porter, and then the inefficient regulation and poor law enforcement of Indonesia, the least cost strategy of Porter seem to have little relevance for manufacturing firms. The result provide evidence that a firm financially benefit from increasing its greenhouse gas emissions. This confirms that where there is inefficient enforcement of greenhouse gas emission regulations, firms are reluctant to internalize costs associated with greenhouse gas emissions. Further, financial incentives provided by the government are not found attractive enough by firms to reduce their greenhouse gas emission. This result strengthens the statement of the Indonesian Directorate of Energy Conservation that most participating firms in energy management are reluctant to complete energy audit recommendation because the recommendation require expensive investment. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu and Devi. So first, let me introduce our discussants. The first discussant is Pak Vid Adrison. He's a lecturer at UI, and he's also a researcher at LPEM. So he works on environment and also on, I think, industry organization. So he is the perfect discussant for this paper. I'm the second discussant. I have to admit that I work neither on environment nor on industry organization, but I'm an applied economist, so I'll try to give my comments in the best way possible. So I will let Pak Vid go first, please.
How many minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Thank you. So I have 3 minutes extra than previous discussions. Thank you. You're generous. Let me see. First of all, yes, I did my my PhD on environmental issues, but I've been long away from the environmental issues, except for in the last 4 years. I've focused more on the deforestation, but on the firm's level, so I've been detached almost 10 years. Okay. So relax, book. Yeah. So my suggestion is based on my understanding from microeconomics, so not from the management side. Let me start. First, the motivation. This paper departs from that the notion that greenhouse gas effect may increase firm costs as well as the firm competitiveness. So it may increase revenues, the competitiveness increases revenues, but also if you lower the emission, it will increase its cost. But which one is larger? Yeah. So which one is larger? If the cost increases larger than the revenue side, then the profit will decrease. But the results are mixed from the evidence, the current literature. And Ibu Andewi, the motivation of Ibu Andewi is the lack of studies that investigate the effect of emissions, CO2 emissions, on the firm's financial performance. So the objective of this paper is to investigate the effect of greenhouse gas emissions on the firm's financial performance. The data that she used is from the Indonesian Stock Exchange financial statement, and then the emission she got from the interview from the relevant people in each firms, and then it tried to find out the amount of, let's say, fossil fuel consumptions and electricity consumption. And the result is that greenhouse gas emissions has positive effect on firms' financial performance. So the more you emit CO2, the better is financial performance. Okay, so that's the key result. But I think before we come to that conclusion, probably we need to discuss more about how firms' environmental performance affects financial performance. It may go through 3 different channels. First, consumer preference. If consumers prefer more environmentally friendly products and have informations on firms' environmental performance, yes, having lower emission will benefit the firms, because it will increase competitiveness of the firm. Second one would be, do firms have sufficient incentives? In other words, what do firms receive if they produce lower emission? What would they face if they don't produce lower emissions? And finally, regulatory repetition. If the government do not impose the regulation strictly, forget about it. So we can compare it between, let's say, in an Indonesian case. In an Indonesian case, we have these 3 aspects lacking. Please compare, if some of you know probably proper program evaluasi. So that's kind of environmental performance evaluation program managed by Ministry of Environmental, where the government released the environmental performance, and then the firms are categorized into gold, green, blue, red, and black. It is made publicly available, and compare it with toxic release inventory in the United States. In the literature, it says that the toxic release inventory have an effect on financial performance of the firm and the stock return. So firms have incentive to lower their emission. But what about Indonesia? Do consumers prefer more environmentally friendly? And if do they have information on the emissions that is being produced by the firms, and the other 2 factors? From looking at this aspect, we would expect that that the emission would not affect, the higher emission would not harm firms' financial performance. So just looking at those 3 aspects that happen in Indonesia, we would expect that there wouldn't be any negative effect of emission to firms level. Because I say that I teach micro, let's go to microeconomics. Simple. Profit is a difference between revenue and cost, and if we expand it, and then the profit is a function of input prices, and probably, let's see, some of you will see, why do you put E? I would consider this as emission level. Emission level higher emission level may reduce the demand for the product of the firms. Yeah. If the consumers are, they care about the environment, but the level of emission also goes into the cost function. Yeah. So firms decide the optimal level of input and emission that maximizes profit. So we can see that there are two channels how emission affect firms profit. There's first is the change in quantity product of sold through this function, and the second would be change in cost, this function. Probably somebody would ask why A, you should put A, that kind of a proxy for penalties. If a firm emit a large amount of emission, then they will have to pay a large amount of penalties imposed by the government. So we can see how the effect of these variables into a profit. Let's see this one. So firm profit is a function of input prices and energy price and output price. So the question would be, can firms set premium price? If so, and greenhouse gas information is publicly available, which is not in Indonesia, and consumers do demand more environmental product, profit may increase. And then the second point is that if you use more energy efficient capital, the effective price of energy will be lower. The current paper, the greenhouse gas is measured by multiplying the energy consumption with a certain coefficient. So if you have, let's say, gasoline multiplied by this coefficient, and then let's say diesel oil multiplied by this coefficient, right? And then let's say coal and electricity. So it's basically an alternative measure of energy. So you calculate the author use a modified measures of energy use, not actually the emission level. So it is converted into emission level, and then it is its impact. So I'm sorry. Basically, it measures the energy use and its impact on firms' financial performance. However, there is no information, on the amount of products sold. So it takes only the cost functions, the cost side of a profit function. If you take the cost function, no wonder if the cost is higher, then the profit is lower, right? So that's just identity. Because you're actually measuring the use of energy being used in the production process. It's not about the emission, and you fail to take into account the effect on the revenue. So it's no wonder you have the cost increase and the profit decrease, and then you have the positive effect of greenhouse on firm's profit. Okay, so that's the current paper. So the area of improvement of this paper is that probably you need to have more discussion on consumers' behavior on buying products from firms with less emission, especially in Indonesian context. And then instead of putting the firm incentives and regulatory frameworks after the empirical result, probably better to put it in the introduction so the readers know about the Indonesian context. And on the descriptive statistics, I don't see any information on the energy used. How many gasoline that are being used, how many diesel oil, how many gas, how many coal, but it all has been translated into emissions, right? And then probably you need to obtain some information on price and some measures of quantity of product sold, because that's the the important part that you miss on the revenue side. Yeah. And probably you need to take into account the data from other years. Yeah. In other words, use panel data. Yeah. So and finally, my suggestion would be, because your target would be either economist or probably someone with a management background, they all of them, they already know about econometrics. So please just drop the information like standard tests, yeah, and standard tests, yeah, that, sorry, information that some standard tests have been performed adds no value to the readers, meaning that I have performed the linearity test, normality, heteroscedasticity, blah 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 test, because we expect that the readers already know about this. So probably you need to put some other, yeah, more important stuff instead of that. So probably that's my comment and suggestion. So thank you.
Thank you, Pak Vid. So do you want to give a brief response to his comments? Okay, you agree with that? Okay, so I'll go with my discussion. So I think it's a very novel paper in the sense that Ibu Andewi collects her own data on firms' greenhouse emission, and they actually take into account the types and amounts of fossil fuel used by the firms and the electricity used by the firms. And also they actually put the effort to survey, try to survey all the listed manufacturing firms in Indonesia, which I think is also a great effort. So in that sense, you have very unique data on a lot of environmental stuff and firms' performance. My comments are, there are several. The first one is, I think there could be a better connection between the theories that you try to draw from and your strategy or methodology. The connection between the first theory, the shareholder one, is more clear, but from the second one and your methodology is not very clear. So related to that comment, it's still hard to see why your four measures are measures of how stakeholders view firms' use of environmental friendly technology or whatever. I see you follow this approach from another paper. Maybe in that paper it's more clear, but in your paper it's not very clear. And then related to that, there's not much discussion on the mechanism that transfers from greenhouse gas emission into the measures, the financial performance measures you use. Actually, Vid had actually a good description of the mechanism, one of the mechanisms, but you can actually discuss about other mechanisms. So that's that comment. And I'm thinking that for firm performance and their use of environment-friendly technology may be a simultaneous decision, in the sense that GHG emission affects performance, but at the same time, maybe their performance will affect their adoption of technologies. So I don't know whether your result can be claimed as causal. Also, relate to that, maybe I think it's another, I think also very interesting question is the determinant of GHG emission by firms. So you look at the relationship in the other way. I think that's maybe a more, in my opinion, like intuitively, that may be a more important question in Indonesia right now. So what determines firms' emission of greenhouse gas? And since you already have this measure of greenhouse gas emission, which is unique, and you also have a lot of characteristics of the firms already, you can do this without much more data work. And I think that would be a very interesting paper, maybe another one you can do. That's that comment. The other one is on the way you explain why there's a positive relationship between greenhouse gas emission and firm performance. All your explanation seems to explain why firms emit so much greenhouse gas, but not really about why there's a positive relationship between gas emission and firm performance. So maybe you can think of better ways to do that. And the last, I guess that's all. So do you want to respond?
Thank you very much. That's a lot actually. And I want to respond about why I use for measurement that are ROA, ROI, Ross and Toppins hue, and why this measurement measure different response from the stakeholders. Yes, return on asset will measure the response from investors. Yeah, the response from investor together with creditors, because investor and creditor, if they satisfied with the performance from the firm, they will feel confident to give firm money, and then if they don't confident to invest or to provide credit to the firm, they will not provide money. So that if these two stakeholders, don't confident, they will respond negatively, so that they will increase the return of equity. It means if they increase the return of equity, they will increase the cost of capital. If they increase cost of the capital, or if they increase cost of capital, it means the net income will reduce. And you understand? And then for the ROE, that is measure the response from the investor. I mean that's shareholders. If the shareholder satisfied with the performance of the firm, they will reduce the cost of equity. It means that the lower the cost equity will affect the feasibility of an investment. And then from the return on sales will measure the customers and trading partner. If the trading partners satisfied with the firm, what we call it, satisfied with the firm, they will buy more, and then if they buy more, the sales will increase. It means that the net income will increase as well. And the Toppins hue will increase the stock market. If the markets have a positive response, it means that the price of the stock will increase. It means that the firm is good from the perspective of market. That's all. And then what else? Okay.
Okay, so any questions from the audience? Okay, Budi. Acho and
First of all, would like to comment on the title of and the objective. I think it is hard to because you cannot localize impact of your own emission. So that's why there's a gap because you're trying to see the effect of emission on firm, which is physically is very difficult because how is it's affected? It's affected the climate, the temperature, change the temperature, and then the temperature. So the title is really confusing. Because people do not do those kind of things because the physical link is basically you cannot do localized at your own emission, because it is the issue of emission, CO2 emission is this common property issue, which is basically otherwise it is probably we can, if you can actually see the effect of your emission to your, then you can basically treat it at individual level. But there is a possibility to improve it. For example, if the title is what is the effect of managing your CO2 emission on your profit performance or something like that. So this is your effort managing your emission and how this could affect your profitability. So that's probably one way to solve it, and or you just do what Sarah did, put the left hand side the emission as in the left hand side. So to understand the determinant of firm emission. So for example, that is probably much more easier. Now on the methodology, actually, you certainly got this issue of endogeneity because profit and willingness to manage the energy, which is the other way to do it is what is the impact of energy management on firm performance, because it is just the same. What you do is managing the energy. Now you got this endogeneity issue, at least simultaneity problem. But there is a possibility to make this research interesting if, for example, the regulation of PP70 is actually byte, meaning byte that government really imposed that regulation, which is basically saying that firm who actually emit about what is it, 4,400, 6,000 should manage their energy. Now you can probably do RDD setup, yeah. If it is this byte, so you just collect firm that is actually emitting, a bit below that level and above below that level, and then see what is the impact of managing energy on your profitability. But you need to have a relatively large number of survey, but you can do an RDD setup in this issue. That's my opinion.
Acho.
Thank you very much. The Porter hypothesis says that if there is a strict environmental regulation, firms' performance might actually increase. How? With the channel of innovation effect, right? So first, because of the regulation, it might increase the cost through compliance cost, but because of that, the firms will have pressure to find new technology, and the increase of production and revenue from that new technology is the innovation effect. And if the innovation effect outweighs the compliance cost and the cost of installing the new technology, then the Porter hypothesis is accepted, right? I think that's the literature. But then you mentioned about the policy in the beginning, so I was expecting that actually you use this as a story for your estimation. So I was surprised that when you interviews the firms, from what I understand from your presentation, you actually didn't ask them if they comply or they don't comply with the regulations, right? Instead, you try to get information of their greenhouse gases, which may or may not uh, due to the regulation. So there is no way you actually test Porter hypothesis in this setup of your study. So I agree with Faith. Basically, if you really want to see the Porter hypothesis, whether or not it is at work in this, I mean, it was, when was it? 95 or something, and it's still debatable until now, because I was environmental economist in the previous life, so I know this literature. So I think you might want to have a story about it, linking the policy to the compliance or not compliance from the firms, and from there, that's the channel to whether or not the performance increase or not, whatever the measure is.
Maman from JDS. So I'm not environmental economist, but I'm interested in the result of the empirical CO2 intensity. This is positive, which I mean is fine. So the increase of CO intensity could be show to us that the firm is there's a growth in the firm, right? But then there should be like a control variable on it. So I think it is related to the whether the firm is already compensated, to this emission, So I think if you control this CO2 intensity with this compensation, maybe it could be negative, It could be, It's my opinion. And then also the indigeneity, Pak Budi also mentioned. Maybe you should consider this in CO2 intensity, And I think the last one is about the model, because you mentioned in the analysis that you use cross-sectional data, right? But then in the model, I saw that you are using the panel data. So which one is correct?
That is cross-sectional, but I want to the pembagi, what we call it, pembagi, and the numerator. I take the average. That's only 1 year actually, not panel data.
Do you want to respond to Pak Budi and Acho's questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Budi. That is a comment, a good comment for me. I will improve it because I start to work on it, and then I will use the panel data as well. Hopefully, I will include your comment in my research. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Ido.
I'm Yudo from Empirical. I guess one way forward, I don't know what kind of variable that one possible way is to estimate when these firms emerge. I mean, the birth of firms. I mean, the year probably you can assume that firms that are already in the market tend to, I don't know, pollute more or less. I mean, and we can assume that the firm birth probably is not related with the error that might affect the coefficient on CO2. But this is one question from me out of curiosity, not related with the main result. is why if we look at on constant, I know that this is not statistically significant, but almost all performance is negative. So it seems that firms in Indonesia are doing bad. I mean, like in terms of firm performance, or you have any insight on that? I mean, in your table, in this table, result table.
Any other question? Okay.
Yeah, my beta is positive, not negative, positive all, and the constant. Oh, where? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Actually, I already convert the data in logarithma in ln, and then it's already convert in ln to produce the normal data, and then if the constant is a, we have to convert again in the anti-ln. I don't know what is that, and after that we can get a positive number.
Any questions? Lydia?
I don't actually have the printout because I came late and because I'm an environmentalist, I didn't want to have people make more copies for me. But I'm actually interested in the descriptive statistics or maybe data from your survey. Like, for example, if you can describe the type of industries and their emission per revenue, perhaps, or basically emission per productivity or things like that, to see whether there are some types of industries which are emitting efficiently and or relatively producing relatively efficiently, and whether there are more pollution intensive industries.
Yeah, actually in describe data, I only use from the statistical described data, and I didn't provide the detailed data about every or maybe summary about the how many not green CO2 equivalent from the every forms, but I have, but I didn't provide it. Sorry. So is that what you mean? Oh yeah, yeah.
From your data, because that's actually lacking in the literature. That detail of who's actually the largest polluters and what kind of products they're making and so on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
On that note, we have to go to the next session. So please join me in thanking Ibu Andewi for his. And we'll proceed to the next paper. So thank you. And thank you, Bakbed. So can I invite Ibu Agni Alam Awirya? Babak, sorry. I actually Googled this name and it says it's a female name. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so our next paper is by Babak. Sorry, really sorry for that. Agni Alam Awirya. from Bank of Indonesia Boga in North Sumatra. And his paper is on leadership role in the success of community development program. Apparently, Babak Agni is involved in community development program by Bank Indonesia, so he has a lot of insights on this project. So please.
Thank you. In this section, I would like to present. This is the development program project in my office in Bank Indonesia Sibolga. The background of this program is the decline of international commodity price give impact to people's income and wealth in North Sumatra, because mainly the people in North Sumatra get income from what we call a CPO and rubber. So the decline of the price of CPO and rubber give impact to their wealth. And in order to increase people's welfare amidst economic slowdown, policymakers have done several things in accordance, one of which is community development program. Because actually we will try to change their economic activity from the CPO and rubber into others activity, so they can earn more income. But however, not all community development programs could increase people's wealth. Some programs are not sustainably. For example, when the government give a cost to the people, then the people will sell it. So the program is fail. And some program also are not sustainably used, that in turn makes people refer to their old way of earning money, which make it hard to keep up with economic slowdown. Nevertheless, there are still several programs that could elevate people's wealth and could change people's way of living. One of the program is we will discuss in this paper. Research objective is this research aim on finding key factor of success in community development program. The case in North Sumatra at Rumbio village in Panyabungan Utara district and Mandailing Natal Regency and North Sumatra province. This research is an exploration from the existing community development program. Result from this study can be used as an input for next research regarding community development. And the community development, if we look at the definition from UNESCO, 1956 states that community development has been defined as a generic term used to describe the process by which local communities can raise their own standard of living. This process include the organization of or establish of service, for example, for social welfare, health protection, education, improvement of agriculture, development of small-scale industry. Community development program has three main characteristics. The first is people-based, the second is local resources-based, and the also important is the sustainable of the program. I already read from many papers. There are many models to the community development program. In this program, we choose integrated agriculture, and we use the scheme from Nurkolis and Supangkat because they provide the suitable integrated agriculture in Indonesia. So most of the integrated agriculture work in paddy field and or corn field, and then they use fertilizer from the cattle, and the waste from cattle will generate it into organic fertilizer, and then they use the fertilizer to raise the paddy field or corn field. And research methodology, this study is an exploration from integrated agriculture system development at Rumbio village. Is still is still at the beginning of this research. Most of analysis in this study use primary data. We collect primary data through in-depth interview with local government, village official, and the farmers. And we also use focus group discussion, but it is still what we call it the small meeting in the program, and we collect information from that meeting. Data collection was conducted during June until December 2015. This the location. The Rumbio village is quite far from the capital city of North Sumatra. If we drive a car, yeah, maybe it took more than 12 hours from this village, and also it's quite far to the capital city of the West Sumatra, Padang. Is also took more than 10 hours. Rumbio village is a part of Panjabungantora district located at the hill of Mountain Sorik Marapi. The soil at Rumbio village is very fertile and can be used to plant many productive things such as paddy fields, coconut, or rubber. Abundant water supply come from Batang Gadis River flow at the back of the village, and smaller thick forest view from National Forest of Batang Gadis can be seen by the river. Most of people do their own land. Most of residents at Rumbio village are farmer. Agriculture activity such as food farming, horticulture, and stock breeding. People also develop plantation activities such as rubber and coconut. So international price weakening of rubber also affect rubber plantation at Rumbio village. This is the condition before community development program. They just release the cows in the field, and we can see the bone of the cows. It's thin. And we hope that from the community development program we can rise the condition of the cattle farm and agriculture in Rumbio village. The early state of community development program is done by Bank Indonesia Sibolga, local government of Mandailing Natal Regency, and the village official of Rumbio. The result of the small meeting, shows that Rumbio village is ready to implement integrated agriculture system. The important things that we got from the meeting is we can get the endorsement from Bupati or region of Mandailing Natal Regency. He assigned the paper that show his willingness to control this program. And people of Rumbio village have higher human development index than this is some speech from the people who involved in the meeting. For example, from the head of Bank Indonesia Sibolga say that people of Rumbio village have a higher human development index than people at Nusa NTP province, so they should be able to develop better integrated agriculture system. Because my head office in Sibolga come from the NTP province. Before he become the head in Sibolga, he become the head in NTP province So he have developed a similar program in NTB province, and it's quite a success. And from the Mandailing Natal officer, Sahreni said that we believe that development of integrated agriculture system at Rumbio village will run smoothly, and we are ready to help livestock and artificial insemination. And from Rumbio people say that we are so grateful to be chosen to implement integrated agriculture program. We are ready and are fully committed to implement this program. So from each leader commit to run this program and will be controlled together, so the program will be more sustained. And we give innovation from the previous scheme. Yeah, in Rumbio village, we established cattle farm, and then from the waste from the cattle farm, we can earn the biogas energy and also organic fertilizer, and then the fertilizer can be used to the farming, and the farming still in paddy field, but maybe from the next program we introduce like chili plant or corn. The challenge in integrated agriculture program implementation, I use the Department of Community and Local Government that have summarized obstacles such as the model of community development itself, and asset adequacy, and also competency development and synergy between community member with the rest of community and with the government. So from the 4 point, we also face challenge. The first is community development through integrated agriculture system gives different business scheme that the existing scheme, and then we will discuss later. And the second is the difference is most apparent of co-breeding business. Previously, breeders graze cows at grassland. The third is this development program will make breeder put cows into a loft. So we change the business, the previous business, to bring the cows into a loft that is also well known as communal cattle breeding. This method need breeders' effort to collect grass and cattle's food. This method is new, that is face rejection between the villagers. This causes people to be reluctant to participate in this integrated agriculture program. It's the challenge from the model of the community development program in integrated agriculture program. From asset adequacy, we face the challenge. The first is Rumbio villagers have enough social capital, strong leadership that is done finally by head of the village become one good social asset for community development. But there has not been any organization that accommodate and mobilize people to participate in community development program. Existing village organization are such as village official and religious organization is not suitable with the with the community development program. But at the end, to make a help from the people, we modified the organization structure to push people to implement integrated agriculture program, and we modified the religious organization and take the people from the organization to become a pioneer that implement the program in Rumbio. And from the competency side, there are many people who have not acquired farming and good organization skill. Most of farmers acquire their farming skill hereditary, and only small farmer, yeah, who have birth knowledge in the farming. But from the small farmer, we have a farmer who have skill in managerial, is the leader, yeah, the leader, or we call it Pak Lurah, have a skill in managerial, and one of them have a ability in chemical and mechanical. He already take a undergraduate program in chemical many years ago, and then farmer also farmer who have above average skill and have a manager skill or chemical and mechanical are the main actors in the implementation of integrated agriculture program. And synergy between communities is still very limited. Farmer at Rumbio do not have good connection access with another area because geographically far from capital, as I mentioned before. And Rumbio village relies on field extension welcome from Department of Agriculture and Livestock to do agriculture business. The implementation of integrated agriculture program, the first stage is we build the organization named Toriko or Journey. The first task to be done is the building of communal love. So the first task is how to establish communal love, and work division in this space is still very basic, such as carpentry, procurement, and administrative management. Head of Rumbio village still takes role as community leader. Second step is the building of communal love. Some of the material are store bought and the rest are existing material at the village. Steps that are provided by village people are reversed, and part of good communal love was finished within 2 weeks. After the love is done, group members started to pull cattle into the love. And when the cattle come inside to the love, it has consequences change in supervision of the group. So the group have to divide it, the tasks from the cattle management, provision of food, and love cleanliness become new tasks that should be done. Therefore, they start managing things in a more orderly manner than before. In this stage, the head of Rumbio village still takes a role as community leader in this piece. And the third stage is the building of biogas installation. The installation is done after the love filled with cattle, and we can collect the waste from the cattle. And once again, the farmer from NTB Nusa Tenggara West Nusa Tenggara province come to the Rumbio and give learn how to build the biogas installation. The name, the village name from West Nusa Tenggara is Bunmudrak Village. Help with knowledge sharing of development of integrated agriculture. Biogas installation took around 2 weeks. The installed biogas is made of concentrate that is expected to have longer life. Energy from biogas is used for electricity for farmers and 2 houses at the village. From the beginning, the energy only provide 2 houses near the communal love. And the fourth stage is the final stage, is the completion of the physical infrastructure, the beginning of implementation of integrated agriculture system. Besides doing some fix on communal love, farmer group also finish a compost house that is equipped with organic fertilizer maker. So there is a building next to the loft to construct organic fertilizer, and communal loft quality is improved by providing fermentation room in the upstairs and by adding a room for group member to gather and receive case. The downstairs is the kettle and the upstairs is the meeting area and what we call it fermentation room. Sale of cattle and fertilizer are also already done at local scale. Profit from the sale is divided into three parts: 40% for group member, 40% for further development, and 20% for the people in the village. So profit division show the awareness of business development in the future. Management of farmer group also experience change. Head of village not become the head of the organization anymore because he has to give more attention to his people. So they choose one from the organization to become the leader of the organization. Leadership role has been transferred to other individuals in this stage. This is the latest condition. The cattle is getting fatter, and from this condition, we can maybe a little conclusion that is success. And the key success factor for integrated community-based agriculture program is one is leadership. Is very important factor in community development. The leadership is come not only from the villagers but also from the official government and other institution. And the second is shared vision. When there is a rejection among the villager, religious organization, as I mentioned before, takes over the integrated agriculture program. So they have a shared vision. And also because the people come from religion organization, they have a spiritual spirit to develop run the community-based program. And the last is government support is essential, especially in the suitable of the work program of community development and the government work program. Therefore, there would not be any conflict between programs, so the community member feel safe in running the program. Government support also important to sustain the community development program. In Rumbio case, government support can be seen from technical help. We call it Indonesia PPL, petugas petani lapangan, and the procurement help from production machine so that productivity of the program can be kept up. And the conclusions, community development program, we can say it quite success, and the key factor is leadership, and then besides strong leadership is also beneficial to create links and relationship with government and other element in society. This is important is keeping the program sustainable. Other key factor are same vision, spirituality, and government support. But we also have a limitation. This community development study is still limited to one community. So maybe we cannot. I cannot see the robust conclusion because this study is only done in the one community. So we need to involve several communities so that we can find key factor to success of community development program. There need to be research on multicultural community to examine leadership dynamic and work division between group. Because in Rumbio village, they only have one culture, ya, Batak, ya, Batak Mandailing. So maybe when we study another community development program that have multicultural villagers, maybe it will be more interesting. These studies use time frame of less than a year, so maybe we can say from this year is success, but I don't know for the next year or another years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Agni. So let me introduce our discussants. We have Chris Manning, who is long involved with the Indonesia Project and actually one of the former head of the project. His area is mostly on social issues and labor. And we also have Ibu Riyana Miranti. She's a lecturer at the University of Canberra. Her area is also social issues and labor issues. I want to make it more compatible with this paper. We'll let Ibu Riyana go first, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you for the opportunity to discuss the paper. Actually, it's a bit far from my expertise, but I'll try my best. I guess my comments will be based on the paper, so not really the presentation. And then I've actually observed like some changes in the presentation than what Pak Agni did in the paper. I guess I would like to just to summarize the paper first. I guess the aims to analyze the success of the community program in Rumbio village in North Sumatra. So this is an integrated farming system by combining livestock, biogas, and agriculture. I think the background, the context is because decreasing people's wealth due to declining palm oil price. And then the method is using interviews and then focus groups discussion and also the case studies. And I think Pak Agni identified indicators of success is leadership, shared vision, spiritual and government support. And then particularly I think is from the strong leadership is the one that he would like to bring up probably as the focus of the paper. So it's actually really interesting, and my comment is more like to what can probably done to improve the paper from the academic perspective, I guess is, and then I've been trying to learn, read a little bit of literature, particularly from governance point of view. It's like being really increasingly and a thought, like I guess is like to think like citizen, and then whether that I don't know whether this can fit into your study. So I guess there's some key points and suggestion. I think it's like to make this is more academic paper is like need more literature, like to provide theoretical underpinnings of the issues. So it's basically about the conceptual framework, and then also I think needs to more integration between your conceptual framework and also with the empirical issues. And then the minor point is about the structure. I was actually quite surprised when I read the paper. Oh, you talk about challenges first and then talk about the success. I guess I don't know. My intake with this, I guess, is you talk about the success first and then the challenges to achieve what you wanted, the outcomes of the study. And then I think it's like about you talk about the methods, but you just probably describe the methods without, I guess, like to discuss further deeply about how each method will complement to each other. And then I guess it's like one really important point is because this is about the Bank Indonesia program. So what is the context of BI to do this? Is it like to discuss about the institutional social responsibility? Is that I mean, like, why? I guess it's what is the role of BI then, like to focus on the community development program. And then I guess since your focus is about leadership, right? And then this is one of criteria of success is about leadership. I kind of like thinking also if it be nice, I guess, like to develop more discussion about these issues is about probably more about leadership relationships, and then because you discuss about head of there is the role of head of Bank Indonesia representative office in Sibolga, and then there is a village head as a community leader. Then you have also a discussion about the religious, I don't know, religious official, I don't know whether like such a leader. So what are their different roles? Are they also like actually doing the leadership? So, and what's the interplay between them? It seems they play a quite a significant role, but it's just not clear whether this is you consider them as a leadership roles. Like so I'm just thinking whether like some theoretical underpinning is like to discuss like leadership as relationship, and like to influence relationship about between the leaders and also collaborators, particularly because you mentioned about interaction is based of common purpose. So I think it will be nice, I guess, if you elaborate more in the paper about that both leaders and probably the community, the followers, are both active players in this sense. And then you also the goal you discuss about the goal to increase agricultural products. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the goal is to increase agricultural products, to increase revenue, but in the paper is not really clear discussion about the evidence of outcomes or what are the impacts as the criteria of the success. So when the paper discusses about the profit, but then what does it mean? Does it the integrated agricultural program that increase productivity or revenue? You don't have assessment on that particular impact of outcomes as the criteria of success. And then I guess it's like, I don't know, I mean, like in the literature itself, I think is that a lot of literatures that try to measure the process and outputs of outcomes in this kind of community development program. So, like for example, you can look at the changes in the 7 types of capital involved in this program. I mean, like from social capital, human capital, so like before and after the program. And then you mentioned about increasing the revenue here, which is actually from financial capital. So I think I would like to see, I don't know whether is it because, like, as you mentioned, is the time period is still like less than a year, then you cannot observe a lot in terms of the outcome. So, but I guess if it would be really interesting if you can look at more at the impacts of on the outcomes. And about again criteria of success, it will be interesting if you can compare this study with other programs. Is there whether there is other success story that can be considered as a benchmark? And then when you say this is successful, right, then I don't know, somehow you need to have a comparison to compare, and then like whether, or maybe also you can compare for those programs that probably in your assessment are not considered as successful. And you mentioned about people's involvement as a challenges, but I guess also I would like to see more. I mean, like more to say about this. And then so I just borrow this is actually my colleagues at my institute, so they develop like the framework to assess people participation, and this is some kind of tools about to access participation in the localities, public participation. So whether it's clear whether they can actually participate, right? I guess I think a kind of a feeling that you in terms of the resources, skill, and knowledge, as you probably mentioned, and we mentioned a bit. A few farmers have. Just really a few of them that have above average of competency, and then whether they like to participate, whether they have a sense of attachment, whether they're unable to participate, or whether they're asked to participate and responded to what they do. So you can actually assess these indicators to see, to analyze more about people's involvement, because I think, yeah, why this is the challenges is because this particular framework probably has not been fulfilled, and still problematic in the case of Rumbio. I guess that's probably it. I guess it's more about like tightening up with the literatures, and then I guess I would like to see I think more in terms of outcomes and also impact, and then this probably also relates to your point about the sustainability of the program in the future. Thank you.
Should I go? All right. This is not my field either. And I'm afraid my comments really overlap a great deal with Mira's, but they're not as well researched. So they're rather ad hoc. So I'll just present them as they came to my mind anyway. So maaf Pak Agni, it's kurang lengkap, but hopefully there's some value in a few of the comments. Let's have a look. Yeah. Oh, it's gone too far. That's why. Yeah. Okay. So the main message, as Mira recounted, is the success of the project and the role of leadership, the shared vision, and government support. And it's interesting, I think, because it involves two big sets of issues. One is community development, and the other is an integrated agricultural development program. So, both of them are touched upon, but I like Mira, would have liked to have seen a little bit more in-depth treatment of both. The methodology, action research, so it's very much an action research paper, and I have a feeling that a big part of the story is actually not being told, and that is the role of the BE. It just doesn't seem to be there. I mean, as I understand it, Agni, BE was essential in getting this project started in ITB, and then that model has then been reproduced in North Sumatra. But we don't see any of that in the paper. It seems like the BE has actually been a catalyst for this project. So that seems to me important to bring it more to the fore in the discussion. I don't think there's a lot new about the role of leadership. Many people understand that that's critical for community development. The shared vision is perhaps something to do with community action, sort of gotong royong type activities, but around a particular social organisation, the religious organisation. But like Mira, I did feel that there was just not enough detail. That the information we have here really, use an English proverb, scratches the surface. It's not deep enough. So, I mean, what sort of leadership? What was it? Conflict resolution? How did the what sort of role did the Lura play? What was the shared vision that contributed to what is essentially an economic community economic program? There's no data on costs, and and returns to the activities. I would have liked to see some more information. I think you added a little bit more in the presentation here, but it'd be nice to have a lot more of that. Let's see, what have I got there? Yeah. And then more information on the action aspects of the project. That seems to me to be a key part of your story that's just not being presented here. The role of BE, the relationship with the earlier project in NTB. A few other issues that are also not covered. There's really no hard data, and there must be some village data on the distribution of assets, of participants and other village members, land ownership and so on, that would complement your story to give us more feeling about the community. I don't think you have to have comparative studies of communities. You can have very in-depth studies of one community, and that can be very informative in terms of understanding a development process. But we need a little bit more information, I think, for the paper, a little bit more hard data, or at least for me. And rather than talk about the results, maybe the issue is more about the process. I mean, as you say, after 12 months, is that really long enough to evaluate a community development project? But how a project gets going and develops, the roles of the different actors and so on, perhaps that's where you can provide some major insights, including the role of BE and other resource persons in North Sumatra. So those are my comments. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Riyana and Pak Chris. So do you want to respond a little bit on?
Terima kasih banyak for the comment. I realized that I have to add more information in this paper regarding to the leadership issue, and importantly is about what's the Bank Indonesia role in this community development project. Maybe I will give a short explanation. So Bank Indonesia have a CSR, although it's the government institution, but Bank Indonesia have a CSR, and one of the program is to give community development. For example, Bank Indonesia have developed a village in West Nusa Tenggara province that is the main example to develop the similar program in Rumbio. And why we give a CSR? Because we think that we still a part of the national government institution that have a responsibility to increase the wealth of our people. So we develop a CSR program. In this year we call it Bakti untuk Nusa, the program of the CSR. And about the other issue, for example, about the measurement of the increasing wealth, I still have difficulties because of the short period of observation. But actually, the people in Rumbio have already changed the behavior from the they bring the cattle from the field into the the love. This is the main, the biggest changes in the people in Rumbio. And the second indicator, but it's not really clear. Many people in Rumbio asked to become the member of this group, organization. Even more of them they agree to pay some million rupiahs. They give for example, they ask to become the member of the group, and please ask me to join this group and I will pay 2 million rupiahs. This is the indicator, but not really clear. Maybe I have to more observe in the Rumbio. This is about the the issues about the measurement of the successful, and the other issues is about the comparison. I have also difficulties because from interview with the people and with the government official, not many. Maybe this is the first community development program that have they said it's success in the North Sumatra. So I still hard to me to find the comparison, but actually we not only develop the program in Rumbio but in other villages also, such as in the central Tapanuli, Tapanuli Tengah, and then Padang Lawas, but it's still at the beginning of the program. So I hope I can do some observation in that program, and so I can get the comparison from this program and other program. Maybe this.
Thank you, Agni. So we'll take general questions. Okay, one here from Philman, Mia, and then Indrasi.
Okay, thank you, Firman from Surveymeter. One suggestion, not question yet, not comment yet. There's a, I think in 2013 there was a book written by Ghazala Mansuri and Vijay and Riau, two researchers from the World Bank, called Localizing Development or something like that, in which they review hundreds of programs similar to this one, Community Development Project, and it was a little bit controversial because basically the book actually criticized. No, it's very critical of a lot of the project that, including the ones that's done by the World Bank, a similar type of induced community participation development. And I think that book will be useful to really read more about how actually we should evaluate this kind of program. So, and of course, I think to add to that comparison, one of the things that and then Chris and also Sarah has already brought up is what's the for example, we want to know how this particular village was selected. Was it already one that is going to be successful anyway? So we don't know. We don't have that information, at least not in the presentation. And if you want to do the comparison, it's probably useful to not only look at other places where the program is in place, but also a neighboring village where there is no program, whether people are actually behaving and already changed the behavior in a similar way. I'm not suggesting RCT, but it's getting to sound more and more like RCT. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
So Mia?
Yeah, Mia from SMERU. Somehow in your presentation, I really miss the agent-like facilitator. So who is actually working at the local level to make this, to accelerate this project? Are you using the you mentioned the extension officer, but I wonder if they really play big roles, because leadership is important, but actually it should be also roles of facilitator to make things done. And you also say that there is a rejection from the community. I wonder why. Normally, villagers are happy if there is a project like CSR in a village that they can benefit from. So why would they say no or reject this action? And coming back to the comments made by the discussant, process is very important. Who is deciding the portion of the profit? This percentage goes to the members, this percentage go to community. That is, if you can accommodate details like that, it would add values to your paper, I suppose. Thank you.
And Ibu Indrasi.
Thank you. You quote the statements of head of Bank Indonesia representatives. He was saying that because people of Rumbio village have a higher HDI than the NTB province, so they should be able to develop better integrated agriculture system. My question is whether this is a formal statement, and how to link the HDI and the capability of the people of Rumbio village to develop the better integrated agriculture system. That's one. And the second one, I got the impression that the success stories of this project relies more on government support, because when you mention about the leadership, it's actually the village level leaders who keep on trying to push the people of the village to participate in the project. Is my impression correct based on your experience? Thank you.
Thank you. I will respond in my best. The first is about the literature. Thank you for the suggestion. I will study more at the literature. And the second one is how we choose the village. Actually, I don't know, it's coming suddenly. So, every representative office in Bank Indonesia should give I think like a plan, yeah, plan to what's the CSR program and where. At that time, I only have 2 days to prepare the presentation, and I see the other unit in my office. Oh, they already survey in Rumbio, so I choose Rumbio because it's it's really happen. So maybe it's about because of the people in Rumbio pray to God, so we choose the Rumbio. This is the how we choose the village. This is the one. And the second about the facilitator. About the facilitator, actually we have petugas penyuluh lapangan. Her name is Sahreni, but Sahreni, not Sahrini, Sahreni. She is the local citizen in the Mandailing, so they have she have a close relationship to the village. The first benefits, and the second, the leader of the village, the kepala deskapdes, Pak Lurah or something. He have he has a spirit, yeah. So he said to himself that I have to get this program and I can implement to my village, yeah. Because the Pak Lurah is have a managerial skill, yeah. He study in the management management subject in his undergraduate program. And then what's the third is maybe I missed that. So Bank Indonesia only build the physics. So we only build the loft and the house of compost, ya, rumah kompos, house of fertilizer in machine, ya, and then build the physics from the biogas. So maybe it's the thing why the people reject, yeah, because in many program before the people will get the cost, and they can sell it. So in Bank Indonesia program, we only build the loft and the physical building only. So maybe it's not really interesting for the villagers. And we introduced the new system. So we change from the what we call it liar sapi, the cost that only fit in the grass on the field, but we bring it into the loft. So it's really the new thing from the people, and maybe the new thing in the North Sumatra. So what we have done in Rumbio will copy not only in the BI Bulga office only, but also from the province BI Sumatera Utara will also develop the similar programs. And then about the HDI, it's only to say that the people in the West Nusa Tenggara, maybe the literacy or the income is lower than in people in Rumbio village, but they can build the community development program in Bunmudrak and success. So why the people in Rumbio cannot do the same thing? It's just only the about this thing only. Yeah, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, please join me in thanking Pak Agni for his. So that concludes our program for today. So tomorrow we are going to have another very exciting day of the presentations about Indonesia Project funded research grants. We'll meet at 7 p.m. for dinner later. It's at Paxi Rosso restaurant or area which is near the swimming pool. I don't know where exactly that is, but I guess you will be able to find it. So our keynote speech will be done by Professor Sat Riau, maybe at 7 p.m. as well. So we'll see you later at 7. So thank you, everyone. See you. It's at 7, so the time is changed. We leave more time for a break. So starts at 7 p.m. Thank you.
To access the dinner room, you can take the lift close to the restaurants.